There's little doubt as to which Android phone will be the most popular this year. Samsung's been king for a few years now, and the Galaxy S8 and the S8 Plus will definitely rise to the top again. But the question is, do Samsung's new phones actually deserve to be in the #1 spot? If you're looking for a phone that will turn heads, the Galaxy S8 will definitely fit that bill. At first glance, the phone doesn't look much different from last year's S7 Edge, but when you turn on the display, the S8's unique design truly comes to life. The first thing you'll notice is that the physical home button and capacitive keys are nowhere in sight. They've been replaced by on-screen navigational buttons on the new 18.5:9 aspect ratio display, which covers 83.6% of the front of the device. It's not unlike the display of the LG G6, but the curved edges along the side of the phone make this thing look and feel like a piece of art. What's different when compared to last year's S7 Edge is that the curve is a lot more subtle, tapering off gently as it reaches the edge, making it a lot more ergonomic and stylish. The back of the phone is typical Samsung, with the heart rate sensor right next to the Squircle camera module. But what's new is the fingerprint sensor right next to it. Stating that this is an odd placement for the fingerprint sensor goes without saying. It's not a natural placement for your finger, meaning that you'll have to search for it blindly, inevitably leading to fingerprint smudges all over the camera lens. As you'd expect from a phone that looks like this, the Galaxy S8 is quite expensive. The phone sells for $725 in the US, with the S8 Plus costing even $100 more. But for all that cash, you do get top-of-the-line hardware. As mentioned before, that includes a 5.8-inch Quad HD Super AMOLED display protected with Gorilla Glass 5 on the front, a Qualcomm Snapdragon 835 processor in the US, and the Exynos 8895 for the other markets around the globe. There's the usual 4 gigs of RAM, 64 gigs of storage, 12 megapixel camera on the back, 8 megapixel front-facing camera, and a heart rate monitor. In addition to the fingerprint sensor, Samsung's also included an iris scanner as an additional biometric security option. And to finish things off, there's a 3000 mAh battery on the regular S8 and a larger 3500 mAh battery on the S8 Plus. Benchmark numbers show that this phone is fast, but the fluidity of the software in day-to-day use also backs that up. This may sound a little unbelievable, but this is the first Samsung phone that I've used in years which doesn't feel bogged down by an overbearing software layer. You still get Samsung's Edge panel, which pops up your favorite contacts, weather, or shortcuts when you swipe in from the right side of the display, and the launcher forces some unnecessary taps and swipes in order to customize it. But it looks so much better and is so much more responsive than it's been in the past that I don't even care. It doesn't matter if you're surfing the web, browsing your Instagram feed, or even playing your favorite Android game. The S8 will keep up with whatever you throw at it. Now, I haven't mentioned Bixby yet, but that's because there's really not much to talk about. The S8's built-in AI assistant still doesn't come with voice recognition. What you do get for now is a dedicated button which shows you suggested content with weather, news, step tracking, and customization options. But what frustrates me the most is that I accidentally press the Bixby button 4 to 5 times a day, and it takes forever for the Bixby panel to actually slide open before I can close it out. The only Bixby feature that's actually fun to play with is the image recognition feature, which is built into the camera. But that's only because it gets the results so wrong. If you have something that looks completely unique, it can get it right from time to time and show you a similar image. But it has yet to match me up with an actual product when tapping the shopping icon, even when taking a picture of the Samsung Galaxy S8's official press photo. My disappointment with Bixby also carries over to the S8's battery. By default, the resolution is set to 1080p in order to boost the numbers a bit, but when you use the always-on display and change the resolution back to QHD+, you're lucky if you can make it 14 hours and still have a 10% charge at the end of the day. Typically, you can squeeze out 4.5 hours of screen on time, but that's pushing it. If you need something that lasts longer, you'll have to spend the extra $100 and spring for the S8 Plus. What's not disappointing is the camera. The specs aren't a huge improvement over last year's S7, but the camera still manages to perform exceptionally well. The biggest changes actually come to the software. The camera app UI is clean, with a few of the most important features readily accessible. But there's also a ton of preset filter options and more that can be downloaded. The most interesting of the filters are the Snapchat knockoffs. If you have kids who just want to use Snapchat for the filters, they'll love these just as much. They're definitely fun to play with and a lot easier to share with your friends and family if you're not into Snapchat itself. But let's not get sidetracked. This camera means business too. The sensor can capture some amazing detail, and the f1.7 lens lets in an incredible amount of light and can focus almost instantaneously. If you want a camera that can take instantly shareable images, the S8 will do the trick. White balance and exposure are great, and Samsung's tweak things just the right way to deliver impressive low light shots as well. In my opinion, they're not as good as what you get from the HTC U11, but they're better than what the LG G6 has to offer and on par with the Huawei P10. For me, the problem is that Samsung's done too much to make the photos look good. While the high contrast, bumped up saturation, and sharp edges make the images pop, the end result seldom matches what you see in the real world. Some would argue that the images look better than real life, but I typically want a photo that allows me to edit it the way that I want. For 95% of people, the photos from the S8 will be perfectly fine, but if you want more natural images, you'll have to switch over to the Pro mode to control the saturation, tint, contrast, and color temperature on your own. Personally, I think Samsung nailed it with the selfie cam this year. The 8-megapixel sensor is leaps and bounds better than what we saw with last year's S7, offering great dynamic range and incredible clarity. It takes incredible shots, indoors, outdoors, and even in low light situations. And the fact that Samsung chose to use an autofocus lens means that you'll get images where the background is blurred out just a little bit. Video capture on the S8 is phenomenal as well, with both cameras. You get the usual 4K resolution from the main camera, but the front-facing camera can also do QHD recording. Saturation, contrast, and sharpness levels match what you get when you take pictures, but that's a little bit more forgivable with video since fewer people have the time or even the know-how to edit video properly. It's clear that Samsung's positioned the Galaxy S8 and the S8 Plus as two of the top contenders for 2017. I'm not particularly fond of the fingerprint sensor's position, but the two phones don't have any glaring faults, and it's hard to deny that they're among the best looking devices I've ever seen. If you're a Samsung fan looking to replace an older Galaxy device with a newer one, there's no reason why you shouldn't buy the Galaxy S8. But if you want to try something different, I don't think that there's anything truly unique that this phone offers. The LG G6 and the HTC U11 are $75 to $100 cheaper than the S8. LG's smartphone offers a similar design, with the added bonus of having a wide-angle camera lens. And HTC's U11 is nearly as pretty as Samsung's smartphone, but you get a slightly better camera, battery performance, and active noise cancellation headphones in the box. This may be the first time in a long time where personal preference may be the deciding factor. Whichever way you go, you won't be disappointed. Let me know in the comments below what you think of the Samsung Galaxy S8, especially if you already own one. If you enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe. I've got more Galaxy S8 videos on the way, so stay tuned.